I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, who brought you out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other God before me. You shall not make for yourself any carved image or any likeness in the form of image in the heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or under water. You shall not serve them or worship them. For I, the Lord, am a jealous God, visiting the sins of the fathers upon the children up to the fourth and fifth generation, but showing mercy to thousands of generations to those who love and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of God in vain, for God will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord. In it you shall not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your donkey, nor any stranger who is within your gate. For in 6 days God created the heaven and the earth, the sea, and all in them is. But on the seventh day he rested. So God blessed it and hallowed it. Honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long on this earth you are living. You shall not commit adultery, you shall not commit murder, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not covet your neighbor's cattle or your neighbor's servant or anything that belongs to your neighbor. For all these are the commandments of God, which God has given us, and we should guard against them. Now, there is these things which we need to know. Hooking up. What is hooking up? The book of Exodus, as we have read from the book of Exodus 20 verse 14, it tells us, do not commit adultery. Do not commit adultery. Adultery is against the commandments of God. And from the book of Ephesians, the book of Ephesians chapter 5 verse 1 to 5, and it says, therefore, be imitators of God as dear children, and walk in love as Christ also has loved us, and given himself for us, an offering and sacrifice to God for sweet-smelling aroma. But fornication and all uncleanness and covetousness, let it be not even be named among you, as is fitting for saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolishness, talking, nor coarse jesting, which are not fitting, but rather giving of thanks. For this you know that no fornicator, unclean person, nor covetous man, who is an idolater, has an inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and God. So remember, fornicators will not inherit the kingdom of God. Who are fornicators? Fornication, this is sex which is committed outside marriage. When someone commits sex, the one who is not married commits sex, that's what's called fornication. Fornicators will not inherit the kingdom of God. The book of Thessalonians, 1 Thessalonians, chapter 4, verse 3 to 8, it tells us, for this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you should abstain from sexual immorality, that each of you should know how to possess his own vessel in sanctification and honor, not in passion of lust like the Gentiles who do not know. So we should sanctify ourselves, and we should avoid sexual immorality. Some questions asked by youths are, what is wrong with premarital sex? Where in the Bible does it say that you can't do premarital sex? Is there any command that say, thou get married before thou have sex? Remember, God's creation of man and woman already imbues us humanity with dignity, value, and worth. The Father that Christ died for us further magnifies our values. Anything that degrades humanity, something that is God passionately is against. In Genesis chapter 2, the first couple was made for social interaction and exclusivity. And we know that the problem with premarital sexual experience is that the body is seen as separate entity from the whole being of the individual. The biblical sexual experience require the absence of risk, the promise of permanence, and mutual grounding for respect and commitment, and also loving one another. The Bible is also clear in the value of virginity. When we read from the book of Deuteronomy 22 verse 20 to 21, but if the thing is true and evidence of virginity are not found for young woman, then they shall bring out the woman to the door for her father's house, and then the men of the her city shall stone her to death with stones, because she has done disgraceful thing in Israel, to play harlot in her father's house. So you shall put away the evil from among you. Any woman who was found to be not a virgin was to be stoned by the stones. Now, in 1 Corinthians 6 verse 15 to 16, God condemns premarital sex. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Christ? Shall I then take the members of Christ, make them members of harlot? Certainly not. Or do you not know that he who is joined to harlot is one body with her? For the two, he says, shall become one flesh. So we are told our bodies are members of Christ. So we can't take the members of Christ and make them the members of an harlot, because we know so long as you are joined with an harlot, so you are one flesh with an harlot. 1 Timothy 1 verse 10, for fornicators, for sodomites, for kidnappers, for liars, for perchers, and if there is any other thing that is contrary to sound and doctrine. We are told that fornicators, sodomites, and kidnappers, all these, they shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Hebrews 13 verse 4, marriage is honorable among all, and the bed and defiled by fornicators and adulterers God will judge. Ephesians 5 verse 3, but fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not even be named among you as fitting for the saints. If you are a Christian, if you are a saint, let fornication, let uncleanness not be named among you. For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you should abstain from sexual immorality. 1 Thessalonians 4 verse 3. God is our creator, and under the new banner of Christ as our Redeemer, we look him for the standard of sexual ethics. Just look to Jesus, and he shall cleanse your past sins. Don't mind about what you have been doing from your past. Look at Jesus, and Jesus will clean your sin. Just remember the adulterous woman who was brought to Jesus. Jesus said to him, go and sin no more. John 8 verse 11. Jesus told the adulterous woman that go and sin no more. No matter how many sins you have done, no matter how many women you have slept with, no matter how many men you have slept with, come to Jesus, and Jesus will tell you, don't sin no more. First Corinthians 6 verse 18 to 20, sexual sin are against one's own body. Since Christians have been bought by Christ's blood, their sexual behaviors reveals the value they place on Christ's sacrifice and ministry for them. Remember, our body are the temples of God. Our body are the temples of spirit. And when you do what you call sexual sin, it's against your own body. All sins are done outside one's body, but sex sin is done against one's body. And Christ has bought you with a price. God, the Creator and Redeemer, or offer the individual couples and their bodies doesn't acknowledge cohabitation. There is this thing known as cohabitation. What is cohabitation? Cohabitation, this is where a couple lives together but refrain from matrimonial covenant. Or we say cohabitation is the state of living together having sexual relationship without being married. And we say that cohabitation is not allowed according to Christianity. Why? In Genesis chapter 2 verse 24, therefore man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall be one flesh. For God intended that both parties in marriage were to experience their intimacy together, growing in their experience at the same time. Now, cohabitation rejects this principle. Which principle? Growing together in experience and at the same time having the intimacy together. Cohabitation rejects this principle. Cohabitation differentiates and separates the individual rather than viewing sexual needs as part of the individual's whole. There are many various functions and purpose to marriage, but the main and primary function is protection against sin. Reasons why people should marry. There are many reasons, but the main reason we are told by Paul in the book of 1 Corinthians 7 verse 2, nevertheless, because of sexual immorality, let each man have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. Remember, along with the Sabbath, marriage is one of the institutions we have from the Garden of Eden. In Genesis chapter 2 verse 24, the wedding ceremony that commenced the first marriage. Jesus needs the two individuals to be a safe zone in a covenant promise kept state for the true sanctification to occur. The two were not to experience shame in front of each other. This implies that a secure relationship where they could be surrounded by unconditional love and acceptance. The fact that God himself officiated the first wedding ceremonies points to the importance that God places on marriage and wedding. Jesus should be the divine officiant of our weddings, an orchestra of marriage, conductor of the family, and the sealer of the couple. God indeed does seal both man and woman by his grace, not to eternal imprisonment with each other, not only protection from fornication, but the development of character and glory. The young affections should be restrained until a period arrives when sufficient age and experience will make it honorable and safe to a better future. A little time spent in sowing young wild oats, dear young friends, will produce crop that will embity your whole life. An hour of thoughtlessness, once yielding to temptations, may turn to the whole current of your life in the wrong direction. You can have Part 1 youth. Make that useful. When once you have passed over the ground, you can never turn to rectify your mistakes. He who refuses to connect with God and puts himself in the way of temptation will surely fall. God is testing every youth. Sensuality is a sin of age, but the religion of Jesus Christ will hold reins of control every species of unlawful liberty. Avoid the first approach of danger. The soul's interest can't be threefold with your capital. With your capital is your character. Cherish it as you could golden treasure. Moral purity, self-respect, strong power of resistance must be firmly and consistently cherished. Every unholy passion must be kept under control of sanctified reason through the grace abundantly bestowed of God in every emergency. Remember to take control. Take care. As you have been told, avoid the first approach of danger. Don't mingle with the sin. When you take time to mingle with the sin, sin unfortunately overcomes you. Whenever you get sin, run away from sin. When God says this is sin, don't mingle with the sin. Run away with the sin.